SCHD has been growing its dividend for over a decade. So explain this to me. Why does it still only yield around 3.5%? Shouldn't it be way higher by now? And if it's not going to yield any higher, what's the point of owning it? This is a critical point and misunderstanding on how SCHD works, and it could mean that you might be building your entire portfolio the wrong way. So in this video, I'm going to show you why that 3.5% number is actually misleading, what long-term investors are really earning, and how this misunderstanding causes people to chase the wrong investments. And later, we got to talk about something. Why did SCHD just add Macy's company during their most recent reconstitution? Yes, we're going there. But first, let's start off with the 3.5% yield. I get a lot of comments, and just like this one right here, you say SCHD had 14 years of dividend growth, which is true, and it still only pays 3.5%. Now, honestly, that's actually a great question because it exposes one of the biggest misunderstandings in investing: the difference between dividend yield and dividend growth. So here's what most people see. They see 14 years of dividend growth and only 3.5% yield. And that feels underwhelming. And I don't blame them. But here's the problem. That 3.5% number, that is not your yield. That 3.5% yield that you see, that is the yield for somebody buying SCHD today, right now, not somebody who has owned it for many years. Imagine this for a second. Let's say you buy a rental property, right? 10 years ago for $200,000. At the time, it generated you $8,000 per year in rental income. And hey, that's a 4% return. Now, we're going to fast forward 10 years. That same house is now worth $400,000. Rent has also increased to now $16,000 per year. Now, your return is actually 8% on your original investment of that $200,000. But if somebody would walk by and look at it today, they would say, well, wait a minute, $16,000 in annual rent divided by $400,000, that's only 4%. But you would look at them and say, no, it's not. My earnings on that rental income is 8% on my cost. Because I didn't buy it for $400,000, did I? I bought it for $200,000 10 years ago. And that is exactly what people are doing with SCHD. They're walking by this house called SCHD and saying, I see today's price and I see the yield, and that's only 3.5%. And that is why it feels like the yield is low. And later in today's video, I'm going to share something with you, actual financial simulations, totally redone, that will clear up the purpose behind what SCHD is really all about. Dividend growth, anchored in my portfolio mix of income plus stability. And this brings us to a concept that we just simply can't overlook: yield on cost. This is what people are missing. So let's say you invested $10,000 into SCHD years ago. Over time, the price will grow, the dividend will grow, and your income will increase. Even if you don't add more money to it, you actually might be earning 5%, 6%, 7% or more, depending on when you bought in. But naturally, the next question is going to be, okay, but then why doesn't the yield go up over time? You'd think that the dividend yield would go up like the other funds that we see that are 12%, 10%, 8%, etc. Well, the answer is because price rises with it. As dividends grow over time, price is going to grow too. And when the price rises, yield gets pushed back down. And that's actually a sign of a very healthy thing. This is the core function of a dividend growth fund. We're not talking about a covered call ETF. We're not talking about a REIT. We're talking about a dividend growth fund here with SCHD. A low yield is actually often the result of success because the market is already pricing in stability, pricing in profitability, pricing in growth. And if SCHD would suddenly yield 8% for first-time buyers, You shouldn't actually be excited, believe it or not. You should be asking, oh, what went wrong under the hood? I need to do some digging. And here, actually, we're going to look at a great example on Seeking Alpha. And we're going to look at the yield on cost. This graph right here, look at this. This goes from 0 to 10 years in my example. Do you notice how your yield rises the longer that you hold? This is what I'm talking about. This is what matters that most people are missing when they comment, SCHD is awful, it's only a 3.5% yield. So depending on the cycles of how often you purchased or dollar cost averaged into this ETF, your yield on cost is really the magical statistic that you need to look at to understand your actual dividend success. Now, for those, and I know there's a lot of you that have commented that you buy into SCHD and then you sell SCHD because you get frustrated with it. You see, oh, well, this other fund is growing faster or this individual stock is growing faster. I'm going to cash out and buy that instead. And then later on, you see SCHD performing again like we are here so far in 2026. So you buy back in. But guess what you're doing to yourself? You're never getting to the point of growing your dividend. You'd be surprised how many people are selling out of SCHD and even other funds like VTI, VOO, QQQ, and they chase the next big thing, right? Do you know somebody that is sold to chase something bigger only to get burned? It happens. But let's address the critics because they are not wrong. If your only goal here in your portfolio is to maximize your total return, and I'm talking total return over time, SCHD alone is probably not the winner. It's not, right? Like funds like VOO, QQQ, SMH, all those type of things, of course, they've outperformed over certain periods. And ignoring that factual data would honestly be a mistake. So I'm not here to rank these ETFs. Here's the issue. What we're talking about with total return and growth is not what SCHD is designed to do. SCHD focuses on profitability, cash flow, and dividend sustainability. So it's trying to give you that smoother ride, that growing income, that less extreme drawdown, especially when times are tough. But this is where things get really interesting because instead of looking at just one outcome, we simulate all outcomes. You know, we like to do this on this channel. We're going to look at everything. We're going to look at the good markets, the bad markets, and the one that frustrates me the most, the flat periods where nothing happens. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take $500,000 and we're going to invest $500,000 each into SCHD, into QQQ, and into VTI over 20 years. And we're going to use a Monte Carlo simulation. What that does is it does thousands upon thousands of various tests to give you the best, mid, and worst outcomes. So let's hop over and check out the results. So looking at this $500,000 as an example, we're not going to invest any more money. We're just going to have our $500,000 portfolio. We're going to assume we're what we call coast fi, which means you're coasting to financial independence. You don't need to contribute any more money over the next 20 years. Let's start with the worst case scenario. 10th percentile. This means like everything, it's just been like flat, dead, awful, just recessions left and right, right? Starting with QQQ, have a look at this. Your 500,000 turns into $601,197. Awful. But as you could probably suspect, QQQ will do much better in the 90th percentile, the best case, because that's where tech is going to rise. So stay tuned for that. VTI, $1,044,995. The worst case on SCHD, $1,188,228. Now, why in the world is that higher than VTI that tracks the total stock market? It is because of that volatility, my friend. We're talking about the 10th percentile. This is like the worst has happened. Like life is awful from a stock market perspective, right? That is why SCHD is kind of fun because it protects the downside a little bit, right? And at the same time, remember what we talked about earlier, yield on cost. The longer you're waiting, remember, we're talking 20 years of yield growth, of dividend growth, your yield on cost, you're probably getting that 7% or 8% yield on SCHD. And therefore, with dividends reinvested, with a tiny bit of growth despite a bad market, That's why you're seeing that number higher than the other two. You can do this yourself, by the way. You can do your own Monte Carlo simulations. Plug these things in and see what you get. It likely will be very similar. Let's look at the mid-case scenario. This is just like, flat markets happening. This is actually what I expect. This is what I aim for, is the 50th percentile. Not the doom and gloom 10% and not the amazing fairy tale land of 90%, right? We're going to look at 50% and look at the difference here. We got QQQ coming in at 2.1 million, VTI at 2.4 million, and SCHD at 2.5 million. And again, this is not about ranking them to say SCHD is better, because now things get serious. If we're in a bull market and things are going very well, and we are in this 90th percentile, even 75th percentile, which is actually very accurate to what we've been experiencing as of late. Look at 90th percentile. Now, looking across the board here, you see QQQ is going to take the gold every single time at 8.1 million. That's a significant growth from $500,000 on your initial portfolio. Have a look at SCHD at 5.5. It is the lagger. That is why SCHD has really been lagging over the last couple of years, right? Because we've had a fantastic, ever since 2021, minus a little bit of 2022, it's been a relatively nice market. Nothing kind of crazy, except for a little bit here in, 2026 so far. It's been a little bit rocky, but this is okay, right? Now, the question has to be, what if we do something a little bit different here? This is where it's going to get exciting. Because what if we combine all of these different funds? This isn't about saying one is better than the other, because that is irrational thinking, in my opinion. We're going to combine this into a 3-fund portfolio. Let's say we're a little bit younger, so we're going to tilt more toward growth in the beginning. We're going to do 40% VTI, we're going to do 40% QQQ, and then we'll do 20% in SCHD. We rebalance that allocation differently as we get older. But for now, 40, 40, 20. Now, let's take a look at the results, and you might actually be surprised. Looking at our 3-fund portfolio compared to the 3 funds, have a look at this. Now, we're looking at the same assumptions of 500K at 20 years. 10th percentile is what I want to highlight here, 1.3 million compared to all of these others. You might be like, well, wait a minute, does that really make sense? Because 1.3 million against a 1.1, a 1.0, and a 601,000 doesn't seem to make sense. Well, remember, we're not talking about an average performance here. And we're also not talking about the historical returns, because a lot of people like to point out that historical returns don't guarantee future results, which is why we do these thousands of simulations in a Monte Carlo. Now, what you're giving up here, because that 1.3 is because what you're giving up is upside potential, but protecting you from the downside. We're talking about worst case scenario here. So even if all 3 go down in a bad scenario, they don't all go down the same way or at the same time. QQQ, that might drop like 40%. HD, that might drop 20%. VTI, let's say that drops by 30%. Well, your 3-fund portfolio doesn't go down with any individual ship. It's balancing the likes of those, which is why in a simulation like this, that actually is a little bit higher. But have a look at the 90th, the best case. This is where you're giving up. This is the flip side of it. 6.9 million against QQQ running at 8.1 million. That's a significant difference. And that is why, though, it's nice to have a little bit of a blend, a little bit of a diversification, have a little bit of that aggressive NASDAQ growth, have a little bit of that total market, and then have your downside protection. This is the part most people don't understand. A diversified portfolio doesn't just grow your money. What it does is it's protecting you from that scenario that causes people to quit investing entirely, and that's the downturns. That's times like 2020, 2022, 2008, 2018 even. So, it happens, and people give up at the worst possible moment. But here's the real question. It isn't what ETF is winning here. That's not the game plan. If you're trying to figure that out, you're comparing an apple tree to an orange tree, no doubt. They're completely different. That's not what this is about. The real question is, what is your strategy? What are you trying to build in your portfolio? You could have an investor A who wants max growth, who can handle volatility and ups and downs, who has a long runway. They're like 20 years old. They're going to be the one that tilts more toward QQQ, SMH, even some individual crazy speculative stocks, right? They have the ability to let their portfolio kind of drop massively and recoup. Investor B, they want a little bit more stability. They want income. They want consistency. They might lean more toward the 3-fund portfolio. They might lean more toward SCHD over QQQ. These are completely different strategies, but that's why it's called personal finance. The biggest mistake that I see is that people are trying to force one strategy to do everything. Because here's the reality. When the markets drop 30 to 50%, most people don't behave perfectly. We all get kind of stressed out and scared, right? And this is where that income and stability strategy really does shine. So the best thing you could do for yourself is look at, what is my goal? What do I sleep better with at night? What am I okay risking? And then bake that into the ultimate freedom portfolio that you're after. But one thing that I would say, never just buy in and buy out and sell and go back and forth with SCHD. Either do it or don't do it. This isn't about trying to convince you that SCHD is a perfect fund. It's really trying to say that, hey, if you're just going to say SCHD is lagging, it only has a 3.5% yield, you're not looking at the details that I shared earlier in the video. But now it's time. I need to address some comments that I received on my last video. Why, this is one of the questions, why, of all the great companies in the world, would Macy's department store now be included in SCHD? This actually reinforces everything that we just talked about. SCHD does not care what feels like a great company. It cares about the data. Remember, it looks at everything and it ranks them. So every year, companies are ranked based on their dividend yield, based on their cash flow, based on their financial strength, and based on return on capital. It's not really about, is Macy's great just as a company, right? It's more about, did Macy's score higher this year than some of these other companies? So let's take a look at Seeking Alpha for some interesting examples in the financials of Macy's. So the first thing I'll look at is the dividend yield. So the 4-year average dividend yield is 4.01% against a sector median of 2.3. That sector median means that it's different by 74%. The 5-year yield on cost is 4.84 against a sector median of 2.23. This is positive. You can see that Seeking Alpha, they're giving it a relatively good grade here. That could also hint at why Macy's was included. If we look at their earnings, so if you ever want to do this, you just come over here to their financials and then go to their income statement. This one's very interesting to me. I'm going to do a period of quarterly because things are shaping up a little bit differently here. Look at their gross profit. So they're obviously still profiting despite everything going on in the retail environment. So if we look at quarterly and we scroll down here to the operating income, this is what's very interesting and sticking out to me a little bit. This is growing. If you look at 614 in January 2026 compared to even the last quarter of last year is 599 compared to even before that at 599. It's looking half decent here. The earnings from continuing operation too, 507 against 342 against a negative earning. So it's actually looking a little bit better. These things are hinting at why they could be included. But we need to be serious about one important thing. With all of this data, Macy's is only at 0.13% of the overall holdings of SCHD. So it's not like they're like pouring their heart and soul into this particular company. It's a very small percentage. Where the big boys are, Chevron, you got Merck, Texas Instruments, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Procter & Gamble, Home Depot, and all those kind of things. So yeah, it's not like it's a huge percentage of the overall holdings portfolio. But I got a question for you guys. With all of that data we just looked at, and we could have dug deeper, but just off the surface data, I got to ask you this. Do you still agree, though, that Macy's should be in the holdings, or do you hate the idea that it's in this? Comment down below with your thoughts on this. Now, if you found this helpful, you need to understand the next concept, because even though we look at high yields sometimes, high yields alone can actually destroy your wealth if you're not careful. And that's through NAV drain, net asset value. A high yield actually quietly ruins your portfolio. So check that out to make sure you're not holding any funds that do that. By watching this video next, keep building your Sharpe money, and we'll see you on the next video.